Hello and a warm welcome to HW News Network, your one-stop show, truth be told, for some engaging and thought-provoking conversations. The special session of Parliament, three-day session started today. It was day one, and the special session today saw sharp exchanges in the Lok Sabha over three bills linked to women's reservation and delimitation, with leaders of the government and the opposition setting out their positions during the debate. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, while he was speaking in the Lok Sabha, urged the opposition to support the bill without political considerations. And I'm going to just quote a few portions of what Prime Minister Modi has said. For example, he said that those who oppose the women quota bill and will pay a price for a long time. Then he said that since women's reservation came into discussion, those who opposed this in the past were not forgiven by the women of the country, and they ended up badly in the elections that followed. Then he goes on to say that if all parties back the proposals, the outcome would benefit the nation rather than serve any one political group. He also said that women's reservation initiative should have been implemented when it was first proposed 25 to 30 years ago, adding that it has now been brought to a more mature stage. Now, referring to India as a mother of democracy, again, he said that country's democratic system has evolved over thousands of years, and that members of the House now have a valuable opportunity to contribute a new chapter to the ongoing journey. So these were the few things which Prime Minister Modi said. And he also, in fact, mentioned that the need was that when this idea was first conceived 25 to 30 years ago, and the need was felt, we should have implemented it. Then likewise, Samajwadi Party President Akhilesh Yadav raised concerns over representation for OBC and Muslim women under the proposed framework. And while he was speaking during the special session to discuss the three bills dealing with delimitation and women's reservation, Akhilesh said that we demand that the first census should be done. If they are not doing it, then they are cheating. They're secret. People must have drawn the map. So likewise, there was a wide variety of propositions which came up during the first day of the discussion. But the big question is what Prime Minister Modi is delineating before the people, and what the opposition is saying. Is women's quota bill a trap to bring in delimitation? Is Prime Minister trying to dilute the seriousness of the women's quota bill? And likewise, Mr. K.C. Venugopal also, while he was speaking in Lok Sabha, he made a mention and urged the government to withdraw the bill. So can the government really pass the bill given the stiff opposition coming from a wide section of the political parties? Are their numbers enough? Because it's a constitutional amendment bill. You need a two-thirds majority in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. So these are the questions with which we'll deal tonight. And joining me this evening is a very special panel of guests. Joining me this evening is Professor Radha Kumar, who is a policy scholar and also author. Thank you so much, Radha, for joining. We have Gurdeep Sapal, who's CWC member and Congress admin in charge. Thank you so much, Gurdeep, for joining. We have A.S. Paneer Selvam, who is the biographer of former Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M. Karunanidhi. Mr. Paneer Selvam, thank you so much for joining. And let me begin with Professor Radha. Professor Radha, people are confused about how Prime Minister Modi projected the women's quota bill and what the opposition is also saying. Is there any confusion? How do people or the common man on the street make out if it is a trap?
I think that, first of all, it is very clearly a trap. Let's put it another way. They are using women's reservation to push through two agendas. One, an expansion of the Lok Sabha seats to 850, and the other, delimitation. And by the way, the point to note about both of these agenda points of theirs is that they depend actually on the census, where expansion of seats depends on population counts, and then criteria for how you allocate population in constituencies. Delimitation always follows a census. Once the census data is there, the Delimitation Commission sits and decides how many seats will be given, and then they have to redraw constituencies. Women's reservation has nothing to do with either the census or delimitation. It's a flat rate, 33%, which can apply to any size of house, which is why women's organizations, I have been part of a large petition signed by over 500 women
If
with.
I may interrupt you, not even Prime Minister nor Amit Shah have been try to explain the logic why they connected women's reservation bill to delimitation. Prime Minister Modi didn't make a mention of that at all, and Amit Shah, while he spoke briefly in the evening, and of course he's going to give a detailed reply tomorrow, he also just kept on convincing the people that look, there will be proportional representation. None of the states will be dealt with poorly, they will be dealt with in an equitable manner. So, why do you think that the government is unable to explain the logic?
They're unable to explain the logic because they don't want to come clean on it. Look, as I said, they are wanting to do Lok Sabha expansion to 815 without a census. They want to just decide it in Parliament. No connection to figures. Now, think about this, Neelu. If you are not connecting it to the population or the people of the country, then you are erasing them. Voter to ab gaya. Voter gaya. Aap hi ne. You have decided 815. You don't know how many voters there are in the country because you don't want to do the census. You have delayed it already by 3 years, 4 years. So, what can possibly be the logic there? The logic is very simple. We do not want to look at census figures. We want to arbitrarily increase to 815. The messaging for the common man, as you put it, is that you don't count. I don't need to count you anymore. I don't need to come to your house. I don't need to look at your IDs. You have no name. You have no home. That's the message over here with that. Now, women's reservation has no connection to that. Why have you tied it to this? Because you know the opposition parties support women's reservation. Very simple. And they have to keep supporting it. I speak as an old time feminist and activist of the women's movement. We have fought for this for 50 years. And that's why today we all came together to say you can implement 33% on the existing house. If And that is a much simpler thing to do. And we are very grateful actually to the opposition parties. May I thank you, Mr. Sapar, that they too support this point that you can do it right now. Actually, all this tying it to census and tying it to delimitation and seat expansion is
Yes.
only postponing women's reservation. It's a delaying tactic. They don't want to confess that either. They want to get some advantage in the current Bengal and Tamil Nadu elections by claiming we pushed. We pushed for women's reservation. The opposition betrayed and refused to support us. Now, we as women's groups don't buy that. We are very clear that there are two very separate things over here. Let me add a few more points about this bill. This bill is the Constitution Amendment Bill is one of the most dangerous bills I have ever seen. And I've read through all the parliamentary debates and legislations over the past 75 years. I have never seen a bill like this. As
Right.
I
I'll
say,
come to details rather a little later. We can have a second round of chat on this and coming to the larger details of the bill. But
let
let me
me
come
add
to.
one more point on women's reservation.
All right.
This is a
Okay.
point. So, first of all, you can implement right away. Second of all, it is a fact that there are changes that are required in the Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam, in the Women's Reservation Act. There are gaps. One point which is not there is that the breakup of the 33% and the seats allocation needs to be according to states' proportional seat share in the Lok Sabha. So you have to go according to that. You cannot suddenly create some different way of doing it. The second point is, and I think this is something that Mr. Yadav and the SP should consider very carefully is that what we are saying is insert a clause in which you will provide for state funding, for government funding, for the election campaigns of vulnerable and marginalized groups. That
All right.
includes OBC. And
Right.
that means that you are getting this as a way of funding their campaigns. That
Right.
is an incentive to political parties also to put up more
Right. Now,
OBC candidates,
yeah,
women candidates.
just interrupt you. I'll just interrupt you here because I'll go to the other panelists. Gurdeep, coming to you now. Looking at what the Prime Minister said, do you think that he's diluted completely the seriousness of the women's reservation bill? Though he's trying to become a champion of women in the country, but at the same time, he ends up insulting the women. What is your take on that?
Neelu, BJP held a special session for this because they were very confident they'll be able to push through this. They thought by taking it the question of women bill, they'll be able to split the opposition on two lines. Some of the parties will be hesitant to vote against a delimitation because it will give a wrong message to women constituencies. And B, some of the North Indian parties, opposition parties, will be in the support of delimitation because the numbers in their states will go up. So these were the two calculations which were underlying conditions in the plan of BJP. Fortunately, no opposition party is split on this issue, either on the women reservation issue or on delimitation issue. All the parties, including Samajwadi Party, including Trinamool Party, including Aam Aadmi Party, including other parties, and of course Congress Party, they opposed the bill during the introduction. And the opposition figures were 185. Now, many, almost 100 MPs were today absent at that time. But even if all the MPs are present, 185 opposition means that bill falls. There is no two-third majority. So this message Prime Minister got today, and that is why he came in to give a different twist. He tried to placate. He was very, very jovial. He was in a different mood. He did not attack opposition parties. He did not attack. He sought support because they thought that now this is not going to pass. So let us now cajole. And second thing, they also came up with a proposal which is not in the bill.
That
No,
Prime Minister's speech had a placatory
I'll
tone just because they realized that they didn't have the numbers.
Of course, not realize. It was proven in the morning during the introduction.
Right.
And then they gave a second concession that they have brought up a calculation, which Home Minister then read out in the House, that none of the states in the South will lose the proportionate share of the seats. Now, this is not in the bill. The bill specifically says that it will be based on the census of 2011. Something which is not in the bill has been committed by the government on the floor of the House, and I'm very sure they'll bring an amendment to the bill. So that explains what BJP is doing. The question is political one. Who linked the women reservation to census? It was Narendra Modi government. Who delayed the census of 2021? It is Narendra Modi government. Who now wants to link the bill to 2011 census? It's Narendra Modi government. Can reservation to women not be given without census? No, you do not require a census to implement the women reservation bill. But having passed the bill, which is already an act, they are unable to implement it because the BJP's government, Narendra Modi's government, is afraid of the might of the male MPs of its own party. They are not able to take on the male members. So then they have come up with this new formula. Let the male figure remain where it is. Let us add 50% new seats. Now that is also a wrong calculation. Today, the Home Minister said in the House that we have added 50% to ensure backward calculation for 33%. But that figure comes to 825 because the maximum number of seats in Lok Sabha is 550. You add 50% is 825. He said it is to round off. Rounding off is in decimals. Rounding off is not a quarter of a century. So he as he said, KG ke bachcho ki tarah. So they still think that opposition party MPs are KG kids. No, they are MPs. They know constitution. If you know law, they also know the law. Now tell me one thing. These 25 seats will be added to which state's quota? Is there anything? 25 is a huge number in parliament. There's no explanation. The problem is that the real intention, as Radhaji said, is not women reservation bill. The real intention is something else. The delimitation was deferred after 26 because the census was deferred, and the act says, the constitution amendment done in 2002 says that till 2026 the seats are frozen. But in 24, despite all the propaganda, BJP could get only 240 seats. Now this figure is constantly rankling them. They're trying to find out new ways to win. And one of the way is gerrymandering. They've experimented in Kashmir, they've experimented in Assam, and they've done it. In Assam, some seats have a 26 lakh population, some seats have 14 lakh population. In Kashmir also, the variation is 100 to 150%. In Assam and Kashmir, both they have created constituencies which are not contiguous. One constituency has some areas in second constituency, some areas which are geographically not connected. So they have done it at will. They want to do the same thing for 2029 elections. They want to do gerrymandering on the basis of 2011 census so that somehow they are able to win the elections. And then they have kept another option open. The option says, the bills now says that the fresh census, the latest available census will be used for delimitation.
Right.
In 29, the latest available census will be of 26. So after 29, now BJP, if it wins on basis of gerrymandering, has the option right away to do another delimitation. And then they can do away with all the constitution provisions. Then they'll be able to do whatever they want, do away with the rights of southern states, which they wanted to do today also, but they have not been able to do because of lack of strength. So now they want to ensure that A, they win by gerrymandering, and B, once they come back, then they are able to play with the constitution and then do a second round of delimitation. This is the entire plan of BJP. And third thing, sorry, third thing, they understand that the demand of OBC quota within quota is a serious demand now because the census is happening. So they are now trying to prepone the delimitation so that this OBC census thing is not done now. And then the question will be taken up after 29 elections. By that time, if they win, then they can easily do away with the OBC demands. So this is the entire game plan which they are doing. Today, they were forced on back foot because they do not have numbers. The India parties have not split. Samajwadi Party has voted with India parties today. TMC has voted with India Party today. And all the parties in the north, be it JMM, be it Aam Aadmi Party, who are the ruling parties, they have all voted with the opposition today. And with these figures, this bill will fall flat. And that is why now they're making a change in their strategy.
One quick question, Gurdeep, and then I'll go to Mr. Paneer Selvam because we have to talk a lot on Tamil Nadu as well. Gurdeep, is it like a double whammy? First, the government brings in an SIR, I mean, through Election Commission. They do an SIR, they delete the names of the voters. Now they are trying to redraw the boundaries, the political boundaries of the constituencies. So is this just extension of the SIR fraud? And that is the delimitation.
You see, they are just trying to find new ways of sticking on to the power. So SIR is one of those ways where they are trying to change the electoral rules. The problem with them is this is a country which is too complicated even for them. And their own cadres are now crying in various states that their own votes are getting deleted. So that is that apart. They have seriously tried to customize the electoral rules on the basis of the information that they have, which facilitates their victory. They have tried gerrymandering in Assam and Kashmir, but despite that gerrymandering, despite giving the Hindu areas of Jammu an advantage of 6 seats, still they lost. So this is not a country which is very simple in its political outcomes. So
Absolutely.
now to make sure, doubly sure, other than SIR, they now want to do gerrymandering at the national level. That is the answer. The on second thing, this whole idea of 50% increase with retaining the proportion of seats in states, southern states, is also a problematic one because the proportion may remain same. In absolute number, the figures change. And the government falls or survives by one individual vote also. So despite having the same percentage, the gap will increase. Today Tamil Nadu has 39 and UPS for 80. So gap is of 41. You add 50% to both. So 120 minus 69. So you get the gap increases from 41 to 61. And those extra 20 numbers will be crucial in either saving or ousting the government. So
Right.
even by ensuring that the proportion remains same, the say of southern states is diluted by this figure. That is why these figures were frozen since 1971. There was a logic to it. That logic has been done away with.
Right. All right. I was in fact looking at.
I may take exit
Okay.
if you permit.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Gurdeep. I think I'll let you go because you have to go to another channel. Thank you very much. But I want to just inform the viewers that during the morning, I came across a lot of papers from South India, whether it was Deccan Herald or Hindu. Most of those papers, they dwelt not on the women's reservation, but on delimitation. I want to come to Mr. Paneerselvam. Because for Tamil Nadu, it is an emotive issue. We saw MK Stalin wearing black outfits. In fact, all the DMK MPs today in Parliament came in black outfits. MK Stalin burnt the copy of the Women's Reservation Bill, and he said that it's almost like you end up feeling like refugees in your own land. How big is this issue for a state like Tamil Nadu? And the way Tamil Nadu is vocal, I don't see the other South Indian chief ministers speaking on it, whether it is Chandrababu Naidu, whether it is Revant Reddy, or whether it is Siddaramaiah.
No, they have
See,
both given
Yes.
statements.
No. Yeah. No, no, no. Okay. I'll get a response from Paneerselvam and then come to you, Radha. Yes, Mr. Paneerselvam.
when it comes to federal balance, Tamil Nadu has been more vocal than others who also favor federal balance. It doesn't mean that you put the most vocal representative of federal balance at the top to somebody who's not so vocal about it, but whose heart and mind is towards federal balance. In this case, nobody in south of India is willing to look at it as women's reservation bill. Because if you look at women's reservation, in Tamil Nadu as a state, we have gone to 50% in the local bodies. And of the 12 cities where we have corporations, 7 cities have women mayor. These are mandated requirement today, and these things are happening without much fanfare. Therefore, nobody is against women inclusion or empowering women, nothing of those things. In fact, the state doesn't even use a patronizing tone like, we will help women to discover themselves, as if they
Yes.
are so dependent on these guys to make them enlightened. Therefore, the tone is different. Tone. That's the reason they don't use the word women reservation at all, because there is no women reservation. That is an add-on to bring about a demographic change, which will alter the entire fiscal balance completely. We are already paying price for lack of fiscal balance. Therefore, from 2014, what we witness is that Parliament ceased to be a place of dissent and debate. Parliament is seen as a place where you push through ideas. How can you have such an important constitutional amendment in 3 days? After all, we had a constituent assembly which debated on each and every article for days to come. We have a
No, Mr.
multi-volume.
Paneerselvam, Mr.
Yeah.
Paneerselvam, you do have a logic in what you're saying. But for a state like Tamil Nadu, now this issue comes up right at the 11th hour of the elections. The state goes to polls on 23rd of April. Is that another reason why Stalin is taking it up big time? I'm not saying
No,
that
no,
Stalin
no.
has to be raising these issues, but
No.
electoral functions are big and wide.
I don't think it is completely amoral to link it with the elections. Only BJP can do it, saying that, look, we have browbeaten southern states. Pinarayi Vijayan has been browbeaten. Stalin is browbeaten. Others are looking at it as principles. Despite a politicization of middle class narrative, there is still a political content in the narrative. And this one, the basic change is there are two imagination of modern India. One is India as an entity which is coming together. Then India as an entity which is holding together. Therefore, what is going to happen with this is the idea of coming together gives way to holding together. And the holding together means the power is going to be shifted from people to the state. Therefore, the nation state becomes more powerful than the people's aspiration. All these are internal questions like what is going to be the reservation level, how it is going to be distributed. Everything needs to be worked carefully. I like the way Professor Radhakumar said about the lack of senses to divide. It's not only lack of senses, it's also lack of overall sense of belonging. Do I feel belonged? That's a question. What did our Constituent Assembly do? Constituent Assembly created a sense of belonging. I can differ on this clause, I can differ on that article, but this is mine. Therefore, there is a sense of belonging. Where is a sense of belonging here? And you tell me
There is
one
another issue.
argument. No, this one is no, too dictatorial for everybody to see it very clearly. We don't know why demonetization was done. We don't know why Article 370 was changed the way it has been changed.
Right.
And I'm not willing to buy any
Those
promise
questions,
from
Mr.
them.
Paneerselvam.
No, one second. I will take your question. But one thing which I want everybody to remember is the Government of India's assurance in the Supreme Court. They said that status of Jammu and Kashmir will be converted into state soon. When is that soon going to come?
Nobody knows how
Therefore,
soon that can be.
no,
No. But
that's the reason we are not willing to.
No. I'll because there is another point which is very important, and it is about the constitutional propriety, about which I want to go to Professor Radha Kumar, and then I'll come to you also for the concluding comments. Professor Radha, bringing in a constitutional amendment bill along with two statutory bills. Now, I want you to explain whether that is constitutionally proper. The second thing, you were talking about the Delimitation Commission in your first round of questions. Now, Gaurav Gogoi today very clearly pointed out that in case of J&K, there was a Delimitation Commission, how arbitrarily they functioned. That was one thing. In Assam, when it came to delimitation, it was Election Commission which started functioning. So what is the legitimacy of a body like Delimitation Commission? Is it going to be credible enough if they are given the job? Because I was listening to the brief reply given by Amit Shah in the evening. He said, no, we will go by what the report is given by the Delimitation Commission. How do we believe what Delimitation Commission is saying is going to be fair to all?
I would say that unfortunately, the experiences of Jammu and Kashmir and Assam will lead us to grave doubt and suspicion of what a delimitation commission appointed by this Election Commission of India, which there are so many doubts about the way that this Election Commission is working. There is no trust or faith. There will be no trust or faith in a new delimitation commission. But let me put it this way. Delimitation, there are actually 6 criteria that have been given in successive delimitation acts. That is, one is population, but the others are geographic compactness, ease of administration, ease of communication, and most of all important, public convenience and physical features of the terrain, meaning ease of transportation. These are the criteria that need to be considered. Jammu and Kashmir delimitation and the Assam delimitation completely ignored all these criteria. They went on a communal criteria. That is very evident from the recommendations and the outcomes. And they went on a communal criteria, ignoring all these other criteria, riding over them, violating them completely. I mean, in Assam, you have a constituency which is in the shape of a U. Who ever heard of such a thing? And you have a Gram Panchayat belonging to one assembly segment located in another assembly segment. Jammu and Kashmir, I've already told you at great length what the problems are of that delimitation. Then comes the question of procedure. The commission composition generally, and it's repeated in this delimitation bill over here, this proposed delimitation bill, is that you have members of political parties associated with the commission as associate members. They are generally supposed to be nominated by the speakers of the houses, whether if it's Lok Sabha, then Lok, and so on and so forth. In the case of Jammu and Kashmir, all the political parties except the BJP made objections to the draft recommendations of the commission. All of their objections were discarded with no explanation given whatsoever. Going to Mr. Paneerselvam's point, this government does not believe, they believe in opacity. They will not explain anything at all. That's why they have used women's reservation as a mask or a cloak for that. So you cannot trust that either, which is why in our proposals for women's reservation, where we are saying you can do that immediately, and we hope very much that in this session parliamentarians also insist that it should be done. They are saying it, but please reject delimitation, definitely, but don't, and reject expansion, definitely, but don't let go of implementation of women's reservation. That is absolutely critical, must be done. Now, what are we proposing? We are saying that you can implement, you don't need a lottery, you should not use a lottery system or a Panchayati Raj system to identify the first 33 seats. What you should do is set up special state committees in which you will have one member of the ECI, two members of the State Election Commission, and 15 members of political parties whose membership numbers will be determined by their vote share in the general election, which means that you will have a much more level playing field for opposition parties also, because their vote share actually is almost the same as the NDA vote share, even though their seat share is not the same. So we're saying this is the fairest way to represent the Indian elector. And it is the fairest way of ensuring that no manipulation, no falsification, no attempt to gerrymander will be allowed. Not that you
So,
can do
Radha, if I
gerrymander.
come to you, and then I'll come to the concluding comment to Paneerselvam, sir. Radha, what is your feeling? Will this bill sail through some tactics which the BJP, and we all know that often, the government resorts to some underhand tactics, trying to poach in people, and this entire suitcase politics begins, which nobody talks on record, but all this happens behind the curtains. How hopeful are you now? Are you hopeful that the opposition will be able to stall? If not stall, at least send it to the select committee or a JPC, so that there can be some sort of a consultative or a deliberative process which can begin.
No, by the way, this idea of sending it to committee is very much another one of the BJP tactics.
Okay.
They are floating this idea as a way of saving it, of saving their bill, their intentions, and so on. Because if the opposition votes no in enough strength, then this constitution amendment bill falls.
False.
Simple
Yes.
matter. There is no
Yeah.
need for any committee, any such thing. So no need to even go into that discussion. Important for me is I believe that this time there's a very good chance of the opposition voting unitedly against this bill. And I don't believe that the southern states are going to buy this 50% expansion. They're not going to buy it for the reasons that Mr. Paneer Selvam has also mentioned. Um, so that attempt, was saying that we'll bring a schedule and so on,
Right.
that is not going to work this time around. My concern is that, yes, go ahead, reject it immediately. We feel very strongly for it. I have been warning about delimitation and gerrymandering for more than a year now. So my heart is absolutely that this must go. However, my heart is also, and I would stress strongly, we do not very often get opportunities for women to talk about, focus on women's issues. So try to push through
Right.
that this act that already exists can be implemented. You can
Sure.
actually make
Okay.
some of the amendments we are suggesting in these 3 days. And also, please ask for reservation for women in the Rajya Sabha. Why
Yes.
only in the Lok Sabha? Why not
Looks
in the
of
upper
course.
houses too?
Right.
So
All right.
those are the
We're running
things.
out of time now. Yes, I'll come to Mr. Paneer Selvam for the concluding comments. So, what would you like to say? And are you hopeful that this bill will sail through, or this constitutional amendment bill, will fall flat?
I think a constitutional amendment is not going to go through because it's pure mathematics. The fact
Okay.
that today,
And you don't see,
for the
and you
first
are not able to see the numbers being cobbled up by the BJP or the NDA.
whatever they try to do, it is two-thirds. If it had been a simple majority, they could have done it. Therefore, I think we are all grateful to the constitutional framers who had given us that protection. Therefore, thanks to that Constituent Assembly, which had wise women and men who have saved us today.
All right.
Uh,
All right.
Therefore, that one I'm not fearing. But my fearing is that once an idea gets planted, it comes back in some sort of a pernicious manner later. We saw it with Ayodhya, we saw it with Article
Yes.
370, we saw it with so many things. That's the reason I'm worried. I'm worried because this idea, which is essentially divisive, has been planted, legitimized, and sort of a political argument has been given.
Yeah.
That's the reason it's worrying. It's a worrying in the long term. It's not worrying about
All right.
what is going to happen to this combined bill, which doesn't make sense for anybody.
Absolutely.
It's neither federal nor pro
Right.
women. It's not about keeping India together. It says nothing. It has
No,
only a
I
divisive.
was in fact, I was following the debate from morning till late evening, and the one sense which everyone gets is that it's not as holy as the BJP is trying to make it. That it's all about the women. So in that sense, I think because of activists like Radha Kumar, who've conducted press conferences. There have been lawyers, activists, feminists who've spoken about the real intentions of the government. So at least the message is very clear that it's just not about women's reservation. It's about a larger conspiracy of the government. And even the government knows that, they are on the back foot as far as this issue is concerned. But tomorrow is the main day. Voting takes place in Lok Sabha around 4 p.m. So we'll have to wait and see how those numbers go through, sail through, or they fall flat. And as what Mr. Paneerselvam said, we should be thankful to the Constitution because it requires a two-thirds majority. So all eyes would be on tomorrow's voting. We'll have to end it here, running short of time. Thank you so much, Professor Radha, Mr. Paneerselvam.
My
Thank you very
pleasure.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.